Governor, would you say that the Trump administration has abandoned Los Angeles and not sending the proposal to Congress for the aid that you've asked for?
I wouldn't go so far as saying abandoned. I just don't think they've indulged and spent any time or energy in thinking about the lives that have been torn asunder here in Southern California, lives that still have not recovered fully. The $5.7 billion, however, that has been received by the federal government is a proof point that at least they haven't put any sand in the gears of the normal bureaucratic process. But what we're asking for today is a step up from that, because now we're getting close to that 1-year anniversary. People have not had the opportunity to get back into their homes because they simply can't afford to rebuild their homes because they're either underinsured or they're still fighting with their insurance companies. They either are trying to still figure out whether or not the community is going to be rebuilt, the infrastructure, all of that is hanging in the balance with this supplemental request.
In the letter that you're sending to President Trump, you said, we may trade our share of political jabs, but in moments of disaster, American families expect to work together.
Yeah. No, I mean, I just look, it's the spirit that we've always engaged Donald Trump. It's the spirit that he and I worked together very collaboratively during COVID. It's the spirit where we came together quite literally, physically, for the first time. I was introduced to Donald Trump walking in Paradise, California, 14,000 structures that were burned down. And the reality was he didn't get in the way of that recovery. This recovery is moving much more quickly than Paradise, but nonetheless, that's the spirit to which we're bringing this supplemental request.
But when I talk to fire victims in the Palisades and Altadena, they see the back and forth between you and the president on social media, and they tell me, well, the president's known for holding grudges or going after his critics. Are you really optimistic that you can get this money, and what happens if California doesn't?
Well, look, it's interesting, and I would only reflect in the sober reality of how he rejected his own former press secretary's request. The governor of Arkansas, after the tornadoes, said no. Sarah Huckabee Sanders was rejected. So it's a deeper thing with FEMA. And I heard that up on the Hill. Republican leaders that I met with, senators, both in, people that are in sort of the MAGA camp and those that are more traditional Republicans have made this point as well. For the grace of God, go all of us. They recognize that this is not just a blue state, it's also a red state issue. And in that respect, the consensus opinion is Congress is there. We have bipartisan support from all our Republican representatives in California. We continue to work with them and Democratic representatives. It's just moving the president of the United States. And that's difficult. And no one's naive about it. And we'll continue to keep punching.
Is there another place to get $33.9 billion?
No, this is a responsibility of the federal government. This is getting our money back. California is a donor state. $83.1 billion. Texas, a taker state, $71.1 billion. We're asking for federal dollars at a time of need for American citizens that happen to be Californians. It's a modest request because it's an honest request. We didn't go for the stars. We didn't overshoot. We didn't overstate the need. We've been very sober about it. In fact, this letter reflects that we reduced the request from a few months ago because of the $5.7 billion we've received. So it's 33.9 for a reason, and we can justify every single dollar in that request. And again, it's a request that is not just on behalf of the people here in California. It's a request that we're connecting to similar requests in Texas, in North Carolina, in South Carolina, working with their delegations as well, because Congress will move together with a package. We just need Donald Trump to give the green light.
On immigration, are you worried that the Trump administration could ramp back up these large-scale ICE raids that we've seen here, try and mobilize the California National Guard again? And what will you do if they do that?
Justice Breyer just came out with a decision this week saying the federalization of the National Guard was illegal, as we had asserted. We'll know on Monday whether or not they appeal that decision. So those National Guard men and women should go back home, go back into their community. These are firefighters, police officers. These are members of our community that are sitting there in the armory for purely political purposes. And it's absurd and it's illegal. As it relates to the issue of immigration, no one's naive. We were the first test case. We saw masked men, communities on edge all across this city, and we're very mindful. Those are still going on, maybe not with the theatrics that Greg Bovino provides or affords in other states, but none of us are naive that can ramp back up. And the impacts that's having on rebuilding are already outsized. tariff impacts on materials and supplies. He's made the cost of rebuilding go up in that respect, and mass deportations have impacted labor supply, which has also increased costs. The irony of that shouldn't be lost on anybody. If he can stand down on those two things and provide some support, we'll get to the next phase of this recovery.
President Trump has been defensive about allegations of cognitive decline. Do you have concerns about the president's health and his ability to do the job?
I've seen him fall asleep in the middle of cabinet meetings. This is simply without precedent. I mean, I appreciate long trips. We've all been there, and a little jet lag and a little exhaustion, but not on multiple occasions. So I mean, I'm not a doctor, but you got to believe your own set of eyes. So something is, certainly something's going on there. But look, the president's more than capable of reviewing this letter that I just sent him, more than capable of reviewing our application, more than capable of stepping up and doing the right thing and being celebrated for it. Look, we had the fastest debris removal in American history, 6 months, period, full stop. There was no politics being played with the Army Corps of Engineers and with FEMA in those first 6 months. We're now at the next phase. In order to build out the infrastructure, in order to build back communities, get small businesses back on their feet, deal with that delta in terms of those that are underinsured, we need this supplemental request.
On the Palisades fire, there's allegations that a California State Park official restricted the mop-up effort by the LAFD of that January 1st fire, which led to the January 7th fire. People are saying they chose plants over people. What is your reaction?
Well, I'm all for all independent investigations. We've launched multiple, as you know, in this fire recovery. As it relates to the specific issues of responsibility, and let's follow where that goes. The DOJ made the point that it was someone from Florida, out of state, in California, an arsonist, and they've identified that individual. Now, as it relates to the details of this, the LA Fire Department is lead. They're the ones responsible for that fire suppression and those works, and they'd be the right ones to ask as it relates to any independent analysis of where those facts lead.
I want to ask you about AI. Trump signing an executive order today. This sentiment up to the states. React to that and your plans for AI for California.
Well, California's been a leader on AI in every respect. I mean, we're the center of the universe, 33 of the top 50 market cap AI companies in California. We dominate in this space, as we do in fusion and quantum in the future, in robotics and space and advanced nuclear. In that respect as well, we also are the ones leading the nation in a regulatory pathway. And that regulatory pathway led to the nation's first AI frontier model regulation, SB 53, that we signed last year. We think that's a model for the country. Donald Trump doesn't believe in any regulation. We think he's wrong, and we think states have the right to regulate companies. And I think it would be a huge mistake if he were successful in this effort. We're going to make sure he's not. We think it's patently illegal for him to sign an executive order denying states' rights, 10th Amendment, federalism. We think he has no ability to do that. And we're not alone. That's not just a blue state governor saying that. People even like Ron DeSantis in Florida agree with that. They think they have the right, and I think they are right. They should be reserved the right to regulate industries, and California's been a leader in that space.
Your former chief of staff, Dana Williamson, faces this investigation, charges of federal corruption. Do you think there's a case there, or this is just Trump's DOJ trying to go after
I am not getting in the middle of that. Independent, fair, let the facts lead where they are, but that is not for me to opine.
Is that something that you're concerned about, that this is a DOJ that we've seen go after Trump's political enemies?
Look, the weaponization of this Department of Justice is self-evident next level. You saw that with the Tish James, and again today, grand jury efforts, second one, rejected this. You've seen with others, Comey, et cetera. So that's table stakes. But as it relates to any independent investigation, the last thing anybody needs to do in positions like mine, if I'm going to criticize Trump for getting involved in those things, I'm going to be careful and say, let those independent facts flow and not get involved in any political assertions as it relates to those investigations.
As we approach this anniversary, January 7th, I know that you were in the Palisades. What are your takeaways over this last year, and what do you feel like is being lost in the story of this recovery? I know you're very focused on the aid, but when you go to these communities, what are you hearing, and what can the state do better to help these victims?
Well, I mean, number one is 31 people lost their lives. 31 families are not going to have a Christmas like you and I may have. Communities, sense of place, self, the trauma that people are exposing, community centers, places of worship, schools, and so that impact is real. It's raw. It hasn't gone away for so many. And so, number one, that I think we should all pause and reflect on that. Number two, though, I also want to mark some progress. 2,193 permits have been approved as of least of last week. I'll put that in perspective. In Maui, lost about 2,200 homes. 2 years later, they had 465 homes permitted. I mentioned Paradise. It was 385 after a full year. So there's real progress here, but that's progress in the aggregate, but no one lives in the aggregate. So someone home is watching right now shaking their head because they may have had a stubborn and frustrating experience. And that's what we have to address. 27 executive orders I've signed. If I need to sign another 27, I'll do it. We flooded the zone with support, philanthropic support, state support. We'll continue to provide as much as we can, but we need the federal government to close that gap. And that's what the federal government does all the time. No questions asked, never been politicized. That's a fundamental responsibility of the federal government. And so that's where our focus is. Get this next level of support and let's get people's lives back on track, communities rebuild.